Shalom, Kol, Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Raha Kadash. Double honor to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Peace and salutations to the hopeful elect scattered throughout the four corners of the globe. My name is Barad Duvall, coming to you from the GMS campus, Indianapolis. And to all those listening and learning, to you, I say Shalom, especially to so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians that make up the 12 tribes of Israel. Today, just had a couple scriptures on my mind, a couple articles. Not going to go deep into both of the articles, or at least but just going to touch on them. And of course, in your time, you could actually go and search them. But the first thing that came to mind was, well, actually, it's like the second, but in any case, it was Matthew chapter 24, verses 3. And it says, "And as he sat upon the Mount of Olives, the disciples came unto him privately, saying," so the disciples of Yahweh, Hashem Yahushai, came privately to Yahushai, and they asked him this question. They said, um, saying, "Tell us, what shall these things be? What shall be the sign of thy coming and the end of the world?" Okay, so that's pretty much the sentiment or the lesson or the information for today. The signs of Yahweh Shai's coming, the end of the world. It says that, and Yahweh Shai answered and said unto him, "Take heed that no man deceive you, for many shall come in my name and shall come in my name saying, I am Hamashiach, and shall deceive many." All right, so we do have many false prophets, but we're going to get to a point that I want to touch on. He says, "And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet." And we've been hearing of these wars and these rumors of wars thus far. And of course, that's one that I want to bring up, because one of the major wars that has been in the talks and in the rumors is this war that's going, the Third World War, where it looks like in this time, the two major players in the war is America and Russia. And so, like Yahweh Shai said, see that ye be not troubled. We're starting to see all these smaller wars like Ukraine and Russia. Um, and you're starting to see um, Iran and Israel, what Israel's done to Gaza, right? Syria. So all these different wars and everything is brewing up and sparking up and being provoked further and further into this greater world war. All right, where through prophecy we understand is going to destroy Babylon, which we also know as America. So check it. So he goes further. He says, um, "For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom," and that's what we're having. He says, "And there shall be famines," and is not Gaza in a famine right now? These things are also going to play in other parts of the country, and ultimately, all these things are going to come here to the Americas. But are we seeing famines that's going on in Gaza and other places, and pestilences, diseases, earthquakes? Thousands upon thousands of earthquakes are popping up in diverse places. Some places that have never actually seen earthquakes are starting to receive them, and then we're seeing volcanoes erupting that they've mentioned in times past um, that that you know this volcano hasn't erupted in hundreds of years. Now we're starting to see things brewing, the tectonic plates moving, tsunamis, floods, right? Where it tells us in the scriptures that the Lord of hosts shall visit this place, right? Let's see if I can get it. And it came right up. This is the book of Isaiah 29, verse 6. It says, "Thou shalt be visited of the Lord of hosts with thunder, and with earthquakes, and with great noise, and with storm, and with tempest, and flame, of devouring fire. Pretty soon, the Lord is going to send those thermonuclear missiles. He's going to have those be shot out. Uh, then you're going to have the chariots that are going to show up, and they're going to have concentrated laser beams of fire. But also, right now, as we speak, Canada and different parts, there's air pollution or air quality issues because I mentioned Canada. There was a few other states and cities, that's also are dealing with wildfires, right? There's fires that are going on. So we have floods going on, then we have these wildfires, and only Yahweh Bashim Yahushai knows how if we make it into the winter, how that's going to be. All right, but the Lord is visiting this place. All right, and He's systematically breaking this place down. Think about what He did at the last Egypt. Okay, well, the first Egypt. All right, how He sent Moses, He sent the prophets out. The prophets are out today, in today's time. But when He sent out Moses and Aaron, and they went to prophesy, to the kingdoms, to the gate, going into the gates of the nobles, going into the king, saying, "Let my people go." Then what it started to happen? Plagues started to happen. Diseases started to happen. Crops started to die. You know, the animals. You had frogs and things of that nature. Okay, and so um, when the Lord sends forth His men to speak, things around the world happen. All right, and this is a testament to show that we are truly at the last end of this dynasty. All right. It also, as mentioned before, many of these kingdoms in times past have reached uh, their height, and they get to about a 250-year period, and then they start to crumble or they completely be done. And as we're seeing now, America's at that 250 or 249 mark. you know. And at this time, we're seeing all these things coming to pass. So that means we're that much closer as those that are hopeful elect, that we're that much closer to Yahweh Shai coming and reigning forevermore. And that's what we're looking forward to. This is the book. Actually, let's get back into this Matthew. So he says the wars and rumors of wars, but check it. I came across this and it was saying Putin and Trump's relationship has soured. This is actually BBC News, okay, and it looks like this was August 5th. It says Putin and Trump's relationship has soured, but behind the uh, posturing of Ukraine deal is still possible. But here's the thing: also that's been in the news, Trump has moved nuclear missiles closer to Russian territory, and then Russia also came back with a certain warning and moving. So everybody is moving their pieces around. Uh, Allies, those that are allies with Russia, and those that are allies um, with America, NATO, they're all moving pieces around, preparing themselves for this great war. You actually, there was a video I came across where actually was showing that China and Russia were actually doing war exercises and different drills together. And we know China is actually in the mix as a great power. Okay, as far as people and uh, nuclear and physical capabilities. Of course, not as much as America and Russia, but they're in that lane. All right, and so um, there is a we're in that time, and the time is very near. And the people that are here, a lot of more people than not don't see um, what the elect and Yahweh has shown His men that we're very close. So a lot of people in this world are going to be taken by a great surprise. All right. And so here's this. This is the book of Mark, chapter. Um, it's the book of Mark. Let's see what chapter. Chapter 3, verses uh, 22. It says, um, And the scribes which came down from Jerusalem said, He has a he hath Beelzebub, and by the prince of the devils cast he out devils. So there's a point in which he is made, Yahweh Shai. This is verse 23. He says, um, and he called them unto him, and he said unto them in a parable, How can Satan cast out Satan? Right? Because this is Satan's kingdom, and all their minions typically, they work together, right? And of course, the Lord is actually doing miracles and healing, people, right? But he says, How can Satan cast out Satan? He says, and if Satan rise up against himself and be divided, it cannot stand, but have an end. So of course, it's better when people are together in unity, all right? And Satan, of course, for a long time, all these nations were working together. They were under this power of America, but now you're starting to see that they are dividing themselves. They are pulling themselves away. Uh, economically, they're still pulling themselves away. The dollar is becoming weaker. Of course, physically, they've seen how in the many of the agreements that they've made with them, how they've been greatly affected. How all the places in which America has gone, it has greatly hindered the progress of all the places in which they have gone. And so as a result, you have um, a great divide. All right, you have people now siding with these two major powers, Russia and U.S. And of course, we know through prophecy that U.S. is going to fall in the end. All right, and so and as the pride of this place, they don't believe that's going to ever happen. And so, um, verse 24, it says, And if a kingdom be divided against itself, that kingdom cannot stand. So because it's so divided, they can't seem to come to a full agreement. This place is not going to stand. It's going to only fall. It says, And if Satan rise up against himself and be divided, he cannot stand, but have an end. And there's a scripture that talks about as the rulers of the people, rulers are, so are the people. So here's something here. This is something that was going on that I was listening to this morning. This particular thing here says Texas governor orders police to find and arrest Democrats who fled over uh, restrict redistrict redistricting. All right, so that's a whole nother story, but the same sentiment, because there is a disagreement now that Trump has his power. They're pretty much are trying to redistrict through the redistricting of Texas, which is going to allow for 5 additional Republican seats. And the Democrats aren't in agreement, so they done left, and many of them took trips and fled, went to other cities, and so they can't be found or be made to have to come in. And now they're finding that, hey, if they used any of the money that they took these trips on, and they used any of these money um, that was um, government funds, that they could then be arrested. And so that's not a form of unity. Okay, these devils, who are pretty much, you have the left and the right side of the same bird. You have the Democrats, Republicans, right? Um, they're pretty much are divided. All right, and of course, you know that's what we mean as far as the leaders, the top leaders are, so are the people. And then when you go even further, you still have this um, man against woman, woman against men, um, this economic war, um, as far as the rich, the poor. And so there's no full uh, grounding of stability in this place. So let me go back here. So it says, So it says, read this again. It says, no man can enter into a strong man's house and spoil his goods uh, except he will first bind the strong man, and then he will spoil his house. Verily, verily, it says, verily I say unto you, um, all sins shall be forgiven. Well, that's pretty much it there. Um, because right now the Lord is actually um, crippling this place, and it's becoming weaker. And as a result, um, once the Lord has called, um, once the Lord's finished and the prophecies come to pass, with we have the MOTB being one of the major prophecies that to come. That we're waiting to see that come to pass, and then that third world war uh, really take fire, and we'll know that we're completely, at the end, we're at the final, the finale of this kingdom. And just to also mention, with all that great divide, you had the deportation, ISIS. So now you have a lot of people within the borders of America who are completely going against the government, where it talks about there's going to be sedition among men, there's going to be civil wars that's going to increase. You have the race wars that's going to also increase. You got Jake, so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians actually going to rouse up and really be uh, in these streets. And you saw, of course, being a madman, sparing none. So there's a lot that's still playing out and going to increase. But in the end, like was mentioned before, we are at the end, and the year is very near. So I hope that this lesson was edifying, uplifting, and exhorting to the like body of true believers. Before I end, I'd like to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rahahakadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Peace and salutations to the hopeful elect scattered throughout the four corners of the globe. Until next time, all those listening and learning to you, I say, Shalom.